there.
President, again, Judge Vance, you had the floor in order to make the oral ruling by the Chamber regarding the request submitted by the lead co-lawyers for civil parties concerning the in-camera hearing of this particular civil party. And Judge Vance, you may proceed.
The Chamber notes the request by the co-lead lawyers for protective measures covering a specific part of the evidence of the civil party, mainly the part that deals with identifying former staff members of KTC, Kramtan Chang. It further notes that Rule 29 foresees a report by the witness support section or the victim support section, and additionally an assessment on the existence of a life and or death threat. The Chamber doesn't have all the information necessary to make this decision at this point in time. This decision is therefore postponed, but the questioning will go ahead. However, in order to preserve the objective of the request for protective measures, and until such time as a final decision has been made, questions covered by the requests are not allowed. Parties will be given an opportunity to ask these questions after the decision has been taken in the manner that is decided in this decision. If this means recalling the civil party, then the Chamber will do that. Mr. Civil Party, as far as you are concerned, until further notice, until we tell you something else, you do not have to answer questions that you are concerned about when it comes to identification of staff members. If you feel that a question comes too close to such identification, you say, I don't wish to answer it. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do. President, thank you. The Chamber will now hand the floor again to Judge Lavance to continue putting questions to this civil party. And Judge Lavance, you have the floor.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will try and ask you a few questions because we need to progress, even though I know it may be particularly difficult for you, sir. I wish to return to the topic of the detention conditions at Kangtachan if I understood what you said, there were prisoners who received severe treatment and those who received a more moderate treatment. Those who were subject to particularly heavy treatment, heavy severe treatment, they were shackled at the ankles and wrists. Is that correct? Is that what we are to understand? Were they handcuffed? Were they all handcuffed, or did it only apply to some?
Yes, that is correct. For prisoners who were initially brought in would be shackled, and then they would also be cuffed by a metal ring and a long bar.
Est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer?
Can you please tell the court how the prisoners were placed in the building? Did they have... Where were they positioned vis-à-vis the wall? Were their heads facing the wall, or were their legs facing the wall?
The building size is more than 5 meters long, and there is a footpath in between, and then there were 2 rows of prisoners, and they lied down with their heads against the walls, and then they used metal rings for the ankles to shackle the ankles of those prisoners with a long bar.
Therefore, the walls of the detention center were made out of wood planks. Were there any tiles in the wall?
As for the walls were not fully enclosed. They in fact used wooden planks to cover a series in between. There is like a partition where they would use wooden planks on both sides, and then we could actually see through the gap of the wooden planks on the wall.
Yeah.
Does the name Kev Chandara, alias Kru Yao, ring a bell to you?
Not only heard about him, but I know him.
Vous l'avez connu?
Where did you know him?
He was detained there for less than 10 days, I think, and he is currently living in a Taprem village.
Vous avez parlé.
This morning and yesterday as well, you talked about torture sessions, torture that was inflicted on the prisoners. You talked about beatings and pliers and plastic bags. Were you a witness of this torture, or were you a witness, or did you ever hear about torture using hot acid?
No, I did not. What I experienced, what I saw was that a prisoner were the hands were tied to the arms were tied to the back, and they would use a plastic sheet to blindfold him.
Vous avez également.
You also mentioned the production of palm juice and how it was used to make alcohol Is that a correct understanding?
បាទខ្ញុំអ្នកធ្វើ
Yes. Initially, I didn't know how to make the sour palm juice. One day he asked me whether I knew how to make it. Then I raised my hand, and then I was allowed to work on the palm trees to extract the juice.
Le jus de palme,
But the palm juice wasn't alcoholized, but did staff members from Krangtachan use it to make alcohol? Did they drink alcohol?
In the afternoon, I would bring in 1 or 2 tubes of the sour palm juice for the chief, and I didn't know maybe he drank himself or drank with a few of his peers.
mais ce jus de
But this sour palm juice, was it alcoholized or not? And without giving me any names of staff members, can you please tell me if you ever saw anyone at Krangtachan inebriated because they had drunken alcohol?
បាទ
Of course, when you drink sour palm juice, you get drunk. And once he got drunk, he would use big words or shout, or he would shout at other people.
et c'était le cas.
And was that the case? Did you see drunk people? You don't have to mention names, but did you see any drunk people?
Yes, I did see them because I made those sour palm juice for them.
Est-ce que il y avait des
Were there any prisoners who were placed in what can be called as darkened cells? Cells that were dug in the earth, like dugouts. Is that something that existed?
បាទមាន
There was one near the tamarind tree that is a little bit further west of the interrogation area, and currently it is near where the stupa is.
peut-être qu'il y a un
Perhaps there's a misunderstanding. Did certain prisoners, were certain prisoners placed in holes dug out in the earth?
Prisoners, some of them were not put in, like you said, in a dungeon, but in fact it was called an underground prison, and it was rather large. It's about 3 or 4 meters, and they would also build a roof to cover it. After a prisoner was beaten, then they would use a rope. It's quite a large rope to tie it to the waist of the prisoner and to drop the prisoner into that underground prison. And after a while, then they would pull the prisoner back up. And sometimes Tachan and I were used to pull the prisoners and drag him back into the detention building.
Alors maintenant, j'ai une question.
I have a question concerning the number of detainees housed in each building. I know that there are a certain number of buildings which comprise the entire Krangtachan Detention Center. Can you please describe to us each of those buildings and tell us approximately how many people were in each building?
បាន
The number of prisoners varied. Sometimes there were less, sometimes there were more. When the true prisoners were not yet built, then prisoners were crowded into the buildings. Sometimes for the size of 1 meter length, 4 prisoners would be crammed together because the metal bar that was used to shackle the prisoners, the length of that bar could accommodate up to 7 prisoners in a row. I did not actually count the number of prisoners in each building when I carried the food for them.
Selon vous,
In your opinion, and if it's not possible, please tell me so, but can you give us an indication of the maximum number of prisoners who were at Kangtachan at one given time? Do you understand my question? What is the absolute maximum number of prisoners who could be present at the same time at Kangtachan?
When the prison was full, as I said, for the one length of the metal bar, there were only 2 prisoners. But when more prisoners were brought in, for that one piece of metal bar, they would put 7 to 8 prisoners. So for both sides, for the 2 rows in a building, it could accommodate up to 100 prisoners.
donc vous pensez
So you believe that in one building there could be up to 100 people?
បាទដល់ដល់ណែន
Yes, when it was full, then the maximum number could be 100 or more. But when 2 more buildings were built, then the numbers decreased. It would be less than 100 prisoners in each building.
Je voudrais maintenant passer à
I would like to open another subject concerning the visits of leaders. I'm not talking about members of the steering committee of Kangtachan, but I'm talking about leaders. Can you please confirm to us that Tachim came to this security center? Can you please tell us what Tachim's responsibilities were?
មិនមែនតាជីន
It was not Tachin, it was Tachim. Tachim was the District 105 secretary. He would visit at least once a month to Kangtachan office.
est-ce qu'il a
Did he have any particular affiliation with Tamok?
I didn't know whether he had any contact or relationship with Tamok. And I believe, of course, when he came, he would have a contact amongst themselves.
est-ce que vous savez
Do you know if Tachim went from Thamkak to go to another district?
Yes, I knew about it because the soldiers there said about it that Chim was no longer a district chief. Then he went to take charge of a rubber plantation in Kampong Cham.
vous avez également
You also spoke of Tamok. Was Tamok also called Ta 15?
បាទកាន់
At that time, I didn't know him, but it was the soldiers who talked about him. Because when after the prisoners were brought in, there was a jeep coming in, and in fact he was sitting at the front seat with his young driver. The driver was rather young. And at that time I was tending the water buffalo, and the soldiers asked me whether I knew him, and I said no, and then the soldier said that was a Ta 15.
vous l'avez vu combien?
How many times did you see him?
I cannot say how many times. It was occasional, and in late 1977 he came with with 2 messengers and a driver. Then he entered the prison compound. He had a hook, like a stick, and then he knocked it on my back and asked me what I was doing, and I said I did not do anything. And at that time I was either tending the water buffaloes or horses, and at that time it was in one afternoon, but I cannot recall the exact hour or time.
Est-ce que le nom de
Does the name Tapi refresh your memory at all?
បាទខ្ញុំបាននិយាយពីមុន
P was a handicapped person. I know him very clearly.
est-ce qu'il est venu à
Did he come to Krang Tachan? And what were his duties?
Initially, I didn't know which position he held. He was at President office, and later on, after Tachim became a district committee in Kampong Cham, then he became the district committee 105, and he would come to Krang Tachan office about 3 to 4 times a week.
Il venait
He came to Krang Tachan?
Yes.
Est-ce que vous avez entendu
Did you ever hear about a lady called Old Bo?
បាទមិនតំឮស្គាល់ទៀត
Not only heard about him, I know her clearly, Bo, and I even know her native village.
est-ce qu'elle avait
Did Yebo have any affiliation with Tamok? And did she come to Krang Tachan?
I did not see her come. I knew her when I was rather young. She worked for the United Front in 1972, and that was the year that I knew her.
donc dois-je comprendre
So, am I to understand that you didn't see her afterwards at Krang Tachan?
I never saw her come to the office, or if she came when I was not there, I could not say.
est-ce que le nom de Tat
Does the name Tatit mean anything to you?
I heard about him.
est-ce que vous avez vu Tatit à Krang Tachan?
Did you see Tatit at Kang Tanchan?
អត់ឃើញទេអត់ឃើញ
Please allow the civil party to say again.
Est-ce que vous pouvez
Can you please repeat your answer? Because I don't believe that it was interpreted.
I heard about Tatit, but I never saw him coming to Kang Tachan.
Est-ce que vous avez vu d'autres
Did you see any other leaders of the district, or even from higher echelons? Either leaders from the sector, from the region, or any other leaders who came to Kang Tachan?
បាត់អត់
No, I did not accept Ta 15 from the zone level, and I saw him once or twice coming through that office.
Est-ce que le nom de
Does the name Gengak-yu, also known as Doik, known for having been the chair of S21, does that name mean anything to you?
បាត់អត់
Answer: I did not know him.
est-ce qu'il est venu à Krang Tanchan?
Did he come to Krang Tachan?
បាត់ដែល
Answer: I did not see him. I have just heard of his name in the present time.
Voilà, je voudrais conclure peut-être.
To conclude my line of questioning, may I ask you to tell us what difficulties you faced following your detention at Krang Tachan? Could you tell us about the physical problems you had, the mental problems you may have had? Did you suffer from any particular traumas? Can you tell us about all that?
បាទ
Answer: As for my background, I have already told the court already, and I did not want to mention about my full background when I was at Krang Tachan. I did not want to say anything about my life during the time I was at Krang Tachan. I never expect that I could survive today, and I don't even want to tell about my background and also my experience during the time I was at Krang Tachan.
Je comprends que ce soit.
I do understand that such memories are very painful for you. What I mean is remembering all that, remembering the problems you had, the insomnia you may have had, being a master of your emotions, controlling your emotions, the feeling of total despair. In spite of all that, were you still able to work, to concentrate on what you had to do? Did you experience such problems?
បាទ
Answer: When I did not recall the experience, my sufferings at that time, I am happy. However, whenever I try to recall my past experience, I could not sleep well. I imagine that I feel like I was back at Krang Tachan, and I could only hear what I was told, that I should go and collect sugar palm juice. So I do not want to say anything about my sufferings from that time. Actually, I had a lot and suffering experience at that time, and some I forgot and some I recalled, and because from that time until now, it is 41 years already. So when I am sitting and trying to recollect the events, I could recall some and I forget some others.
Est-ce qu'il vous arrive?
Does it happen sometimes that you have nightmares? Do you wake up at night with the impression that someone was going to come and take you back to Krang Tachan?
មាន
Answer: Yes, I had bad dreams. When journalists came to meet me, the name Soi San was at Krang Tachan, was written at Krang Tachan. So journalists could find the name there, my name there, and journalists came to meet me to interview. And whenever I was not reminded of the events, I did not have any suffering. In 2001, TPO created a self-help group, and again I recalled the bad experience. One night there was a person from one organization which I did not know. I was working, I was installing halls at that time, and in just a sudden I recall bad experience from that time. My wife tried to console me during the night time after my work, and I really do not want to mention anything about the time I was at Krang Tachan.
Je vous remercie, monsieur, pour...
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. I have no further questions for you.
President, thank you. Now I hand over the floor to counsel for the defense. First, counsel for Nuon Chea, you have the floor for putting question to the civil party. You may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness, Mr. Civil Party. In the coming 20 minutes, I would like to revisit a few issues in relation to your personal biography, if that is all right with you. First, the issue about your age. Is it correct that you were born in January 1958?
Answer. As for my age, I do not recall the exact birth date. When I was detained at Krang Tachan, I was about 16. President, please hold on, civil party, and please hold on, Mr. Victor Kope. There is a technical problem with the AV system. President, Mr. Soi San, you may now provide your answer. Answer. I do not recall the exact date of birth. When I was detained at Krang Tachan, I was perhaps 15 or 16. And as of now, I am 57 years old.
Mr. Civil Party, that would be my calculation as well, that when you were arrested in 74, you were around 16 years old. I just want to clarify that because I think you testified yesterday that you were around 10 years old, and you said the same thing to DC camp. But when you got into Kangtachan in 74, you were around 16 years old. That is correct, right?
Answer. That is correct. When I was at Kangtachan, I was perhaps 15 or 16 years old.
I would like now to ask you a few questions about some people that you were testifying earlier about. You testified earlier about somebody called Grandmother Ngor. Do you remember that?
Answer. Yes, I recall that I was talking about Grandmother Nyo.
This morning, in an answer from a question of the prosecution, you said that Hun Seng was the husband of Grandmother Ngor. At least that's what I wrote down. Are you standing by that answer?
Answer. Please repeat your question. I could not follow your question.
This morning, in reply to a question of international co-prosecutor, you said that the husband of Grandmother Ngor was Hun Seng. Do you stand by that answer?
Answer. I do not know this person's real name. Her husband's name was the name that was used at the security office was not Hun Seng. I may forget this person's name.
Would it be possible that Grandmother Ngor was in fact named herself Hun Seng?
No. Hun Seng was the daughter, and Yenyo was the grandmother, as I said, Grandmother Nyo.
Was the other name of Grandmother Ngor Hun Kim Seng?
Answer. No. I know that she has the name Grandmother Nyo, and as for other names, she did not have other names.
Was Grandmother Ngor married to a man called Mayas Kun?
Answer. Her husband's name was Sokun, and as for saying, he was the son-in-law. So Sokun was her husband.
Mr. Civil Party, are you sure the husband of Grandmother Ngor was not Mayas Kun?
Answer. Yes, you are right. Kun. Kun was her husband's name.
Do you know any of their children? The children of Mayas Kun and Hun Kim Seng, alias grandmother Noor.
Skull.
Answer. Yes. I knew only those who were detained at Krang Tachan security office.
Would you be able to name them? Which ones were detained?
Ban.
Answer. Yes. I could recall some. There was a small girl who was detained there, and I did not know the real name of this little girl. And Ka was detained there, and in-law of a grandmother was also detained there.
When you say Ka, do you mean Mayas Soka?
Ban.
Answer. Yes, you are right.
And was the sister of Mayas Soka also detained, and was her name Mayas Sarat?
Answer. Miss Sarat was not the younger sister of Sokha. In fact, Miss Sarat was the older sister of Miss Sokha.
That is possible. That is possible. Thank you. Now, asking a little bit further on Maya Sarat, the older sister. I will get back to the incident later, probably tomorrow. But is she the Rat or Ra or Ratana that you mentioned in relation to a rape incident in which she was raped by the use of shells or grenades, M79 grenades? Is that the same Rat that is the sister of Maya Soka?
Answer. There were two people. Rat was arrested. And as for ladies, there were two incidents. One was raped by a 79 grenade, and another lady was arrested and also raped.
Mr. Civil Party, I would like to go to your statement in front of DC Cam, that is E3/4846, ERN number English 00527774, and in Khmer 00527 In the middle of the page, you speak about the rape of two girls with M79 missiles. And underneath, on the last part of that page, you say the following. I only know that it is Udam Soria commune. I don't know the village. Duik had raped Ia Rat, who now lives in Kabal village. The question is, oh, the small, short Ia Ra over there. And then you say, yes, that small one. She has a child currently living and working in Phnom Penh.
President, please hold on, Mr. Kope. You may now proceed, Judge Lavanya.
Counsel Kope, I thought we had agreed that whenever you have questions for the CP, they shouldn't have to do with the names or family members of cadres who worked at Krang Tachan. Unless I am mistaken, I think it was very clear, and it shouldn't be too difficult for you to continue your examination along those lines.
I will try to call him X. It wasn't I didn't want to ask any questions about him. It's about Rod, rather. So your answer is yes, the small one. She has a child currently living and working in Phnom Penh. She was in prison with me. Rod and Grandma Noor is still alive. And then the question is Rod and Grandma Noor. And then you say Grandma Noor is the mother of Rod. Now again, my question is the Rod that you speak about and being the daughter of Grandmother Noor the same as Mia Sarat that I referred to earlier?
Answer. This person was used two names, Rat or Sarat. Before she was called Mai Abe, and now the child of Rat is working in Phnom Penh.
Just to be clear, Mia Sarat or Ratana is, as I understand it, the oldest sister of Mia Soka. My question is Mia Sarat or Ratana or Rat still alive?
Answer. For Rat, she is alive now today.
And do you know where she is now?
Answer. I learned 2 or 3 years ago, a car went to my house, and she told me that her older sister, that is Rat, was in the USA.
So Mia Sarat or Ra or Rat is alive but in the United States. Do I understand you correctly?
Answer. Yes, that is correct.
And was Mia Sarat married to a man called Mombun?
Answer. Not Mom Bun, Mom Bươn. He goes by the name Abe as well.
What else do you know about Mombun?
Answer. I do not know about Mom Bươn. Mom Bươn and his in-law, her son-in-law, was detained at Krang Tachan, and these two people, Bươn and Kun, were killed, and his bodies were buried under the coconut tree.
What else do you know about Mombun? For instance, do you know why he was arrested? When?
Answer. I did not know. I know that Bươn was sent into the security office. I was young at that time, and I had no right to ask any question.
When do you remember when Mombun was arrested?
Answer. I did not know. I saw Buen arrived at the night time. He arrived at the night time, and after that he was placed in the east of the prison, and I could see him the day after he arrived.
What do you remember about him?
Answer: I did not know anything about Kun, and I did not know why they were sent into the security office. I was too young. I was also a prisoner. As I said, I had no right to question.
But would you be able to tell us roughly when Ms. Kun was arrested?
Answer: I did not know. I did not know when he was arrested. I only saw him there. I did not recall the exact date, month, or years.
But you don't remember how long you saw him, how long he was detained?
Answer: from my guess, he was there for a period of 1 month. As I said earlier, I could not count the days how long he was there.
Are you sure it was 1 month?
Answer: I am not quite sure the exact days he was there. As I said, I did not count the days he was there. I did not know exactly how many days he was there, and I never expect that I will be before the chamber as today.
Do you know when Grandmother Nagor entered the prison?
Answer: I knew that her husband had already passed away. Her husband was bitten, and after that he died as a result of torture. After her husband died, for 10 days or for 1 month, members of the families were brought in.
Could you try, maybe? You said arrested yourself sometime in 1974. How long after you were arrested did Mias Kun, Hun Kim Seng enter the prison?
I was there longer than the two persons. I was there in 1974, as I said, and I was there long ago before them.
Just trying a little bit more, Mr. Civil Party. Was it a year after the liberation, 2 years, 1 month after the liberation? Could you be a little more specific?
Answer: I cannot give you the specific periods. And as I told you, I was a prisoner, so I could only tell what I know, and I do not know how long I was there, and after that there were other prisoners came in.
What about Mia Sarat and her husband Mombun? Do you know when they entered the prison?
Answer. Rat arrived later with Ye Nyo, with her family members. Bươn arrived first. That is why I did not recall when these people came in. After the husband died, and members of his family were brought in. Actually, first I did not know Bươn and Kun. After their family arrived, that I know that the two people were Bươn and Kun.
Would you be able to tell us something about the reasons why these 4 people were arrested? Mia Kun, Hun Kim Seng, Mia Sarat, and her husband Mom Bun. What was the reason that they were in Krang Tachan?
Answer. I did not know the reasons why.
When they were in prison, these 4 people, did at any point in time you ever spoke to them about the reasons for their arrest?
Answer. The 4 people and I were together, but I did not ask them about the reason why they were arrested. I was too young at that time. I did not think about anything else, and the date of the entry of prisoner, what I did was only to help myself survive.
Mr. Civil Party, your testimony is that you were able to walk around freely, sometimes see and hear interrogations, talk to prisoners, do all kinds of jobs. My question is specifically as to the reasons why these 4 people were arrested. Are you saying that you are not aware of any particular reason?
Answer. Yes, I was not aware. President, thank you. Council. It is now convenient time for break. The chamber is now adjourned, and the hearing will resume from 9 a.m. tomorrow onward. Thank you, Mr. Soy Sain. The hearing on your testimony as a civil party has not come to a complete yet. The chamber invite you to come back to give testimony tomorrow on the 6th February 2015 at 9 o'clock. You are now excused. Court officer, please facilitate with vessels to send Mr. Soy San to his preferred destination and have him return tomorrow before 9 a.m. And the chamber also invites staff from TPO to assist this civil party during the hearing tomorrow. Security guards, you are directed to bring the 2 accused back to the detention facility of the ECCC and have them returned before 9 a.m. tomorrow. The court is now adjourned.